Hey everybody, it's Mike. Welcome back to the shop for another Saturday shop projects. I believe this is number 9. With all the BS going on in the world right now, I figured I better get out here in the shop and keep my mind and my hands occupied before I go stir crazy. So appreciate you following along, and I've got a lot of new subscribers, so welcome. I hope you enjoy the content of these videos. This is just going to be a kind of a quick walk around of a couple little things I got going on today, and then we'll kind of show you bits and pieces as we go throughout each project. So let's walk over to the fabrication table first. I've made a couple modifications to it over the last week. I've never been a proponent of holes of fixturing tables with all the holes in them, spaced every inch or two. Maybe it's just because I've never had that need. I've always used my fabrication table for multiple other things other than just fixturing. However, over the last little while, some of the projects I've been working on, I've been noticing that clamping around the perimeter is not always feasible. Sometimes I need to clamp something in the middle, and had I been able to clamp something directly straight down with a clamp in a fixturing hole, it would have made life a little easier. So I'm going to have to eat a little bit of crow and say I've put a few holes in my fabrication table. Not a lot, but I have put a few in there based on 12-inch centers for fixturing those middle of the table projects that are hard to get a clamp into. And who knows, if I like it, I may add a few more, maybe 6-inch centers down the road. I don't know, but I'm going to try it out. Right now, like I said, I'm gonna have to eat a little bit of crow. I've had this fixturing table. I built this probably 15, 20 years ago, and I've built a lot of one-off ATV chassis, and I actually have a separate table that sits on it that I level up, that has holes and everything drilled and tapped in it for fixtures that I move around depending on the length of the chassis, the style of the chassis, the motor that's going in the chassis, things like that. And I just kind of built those as needed, and then I saved them so that I could duplicate. I've never actually done it right to the table. And then I had smaller plates that I used for like A-arms and swing arms. I had a swing arm one that you set the front pivot point, and then the rear one for the Honda roundhousing carriers, I could move it in 1-inch increments to set the length, whether I wanted +6, +8, +12-inch over stock swing arms, and it worked out fantastic. But seeing as how I'm not building ATV chassis anymore, more Jeep and motorcycle stuff, and even just general fabrication, general welding projects that come in the shop, they've been a little bigger, and some of them have been harder to clamp. So I'm going to have to shift gears. I put some holes in the table, and I picked up some inexpensive Bessie clamps, and right now I'm cutting them off, and I'm going to machine some 1-inch step down to 5/8-inch ends that will drop down into the holes to provide the clamping, to provide the base for the clamps. So we'll see how it goes. So let me take you over to the fabrication table and kind of show you what I've been doing. And then also another project I wanted to get done today is we've been having a lot of solicitors come around to our doors the last couple of weeks. I mean, more than the last few years put together. I don't know what the deal is, but I want to put a no soliciting sign up out in front of my house like we had at our old place. But I don't want to stick anything to the brick, the stucco, the columns, the front door, anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a post, and I'm going to make a base that drives down into the ground, and then a piece of 1-inch tubing that will secure to it, and then the sign is going to stick to it. And then my daughter-in-law is making a really nice no soliciting letters with her lettering machine, and I'm going to put that on. And so as people are coming up the steps, it'll be about eye level, and hopefully it will keep people away from knocking at the door while we're trying to have dinner or have people over or whatever, and we'll keep having to answer the door for solicitors. So that's a couple of projects got going on today. Nothing really earth-shattering, but hope you stay tuned and follow along. Okay, so bear with me here. I got a lot going on here on the fabrication table today. So you can see on 12-inch centers here, I've drilled with my mag drill 5/8-inch holes on 12-inch centers. And then I've got, I bought some of these inexpensive Bessie clamps that I've been cutting the end off but I will cut the end off. And then I have a couple of smaller ones. I have excessive amount of these couple of smaller ones, so I'm going to do the same thing with these couple of, I think these are 4-inch and the other ones are 6-inch. Yes, 4-inch and 6-inch. So I'm going to build 5 of the 1-inch diameter ones, and then a couple of the 7/8. But basically, this is what they're going to be. They're basically just duplicating like the strong hand table clamps. So they will drop down into the holes, run down, and be able to clamp securely anywhere in the middle of the table, because I usually clamp around the outside here. So that's what my plan is for today, is to build, machine the step down ends on these, and then TIG weld them onto the clamps. And then my soliciting sign. I'm going to drive this down in about 12 inches, so I need to machine a step with also a point that this will weld into the tube, and then the other end will be a step also that the other tube will slide. This will sit at flush or maybe just a little out of the ground, and this piece will slide down onto it, and then I'll probably just have like one button head screw or something that secures it. But this will stick about 4.5 feet out of the ground and have a sign affixed to it like so, that my daughter-in-law is making some stenciling. I think I'm going to engine turn this piece so it looks nice, maybe clear coat it, and then no soliciting. And this will be about eye level as people are coming up the steps to the front door. So that's the other project of the day. So I'll spend some time at the lathe today and at the welding table doing some welding. So, oh, and then also while I had the mag drill out the other day, I drilled and tapped some 3/8/16 holes for my axle fixtures that I built. I think these were in a video, I don't know, probably 6 months ago, 5-6 months ago. But these I machined, and now that the 3/8 bolts, I can just thread some 3/8 hex bolts down into there, tighten it down, and I can put my axle in, and it's rock solid. I can place my axle in here, tighten it down, and hold an axle to either rebuild the center section, or if I need to cut brackets off and change the angle of the brackets. So I'll have a nice solid base in which to build an axle off of. So like I said, while I had the mag drill out, I went ahead and drilled and tapped these holes. So I'm just starting out with a piece of 1-inch drill rod here. So we'll put it in the collet and face off the end, and then cut the other 1 inch deep down to 5/8. Double check my height on the tool. Right on the money. Perfect. Okay, let's face that off. Come in and touch off here. Take maybe 50 thousandths off of it. Come in here and mark off 1 inch. Nice chips coming off. Okay, I'm going to set my soft stop here. Back up, take another cut. Take a measurement on that and see where we stand. $826. So we need to take off 201 thousandths. Okay, so that's one revolution and just a skosh. The tip looked like it was chipped, but it was just a metal sliver. Okay, let's go 50 thousandths. Another 50 thousandths. Okay, we're going to do 30 thousandths on this one. Actually, I'm going to do 31 thousandths. And then we should, this last cut should be 20 thousandths. Nice chip, nice surface finish. Back it out, nice crisp edge. And let's see where we stand. $625 right on. Let's see if that will focus. $625 right on the money. Man, I love this lathe. Freaking accurate as hell. Okay, I'm gonna put a slight chamfer. Actually, let me check the length. I think I might be just slightly over an inch here. Yeah, I want to take about 50 thousandths off the end of that. Nice thing about these soft stops, I can come up and touch off on it, set my soft stop to 0. Or better yet, set it to 50 thousandths, and then when I come into 0, I'll take about 20 thousandths, or about, excuse me, 30 thousandths off of it, and then I'll creep up on the last 20. Get a little more accurate than the slide rule there. Okay. Okay. I'm going to put a chamfer. Move my soft stop out of the way. Come in and put a small chamfer. And then up where transition is. And that's ready to go over to the bandsaw and cut it off. I'll test it on the table, make sure, and then I'll go over and I'll go on a 1/2 inch from this surface, from this land up. I'll cut it off the bandsaw, chuck it up in the lathe here, and just face it off, and then we'll go well. Bailey horizontal bandsaw does such a nice job. Look at that finish on there and consistency. I was shooting for a 1/2 inch with a ruler, and 504, 505, 502. Pretty damn close. So I'll just put this in the chuck, or in the collet rather, and just take a light facing cut on that and clean it up. Basically just knock the burr off is really all I'm gonna do. Not much else is gonna be removed. I'm going to just touch off on the face, set my soft stop, and I'll probably take like 3 thousandths off is all. That's really all that's necessary on that. Put a small chamfer. On the end there. Boom. That's it. Nothing's ready for welding. I've got all the I think it's a zinc coating knocked off the end of the clamps. I squared them up. I cut it off with the horizontal bandsaw, and then I just touched up on the disc sander, and then used an emery, or not an emery, a rotary bit, because this has got a little bit of a dish area in it. Used a rotary bit to get down in there, and then the roll lock to knock the edges off, or to knock the coating off the edges. So I've got all that done. All of the remaining 4 pins are done. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of acetone and wipe each of these down. very good. And then we will proceed on to welding these. And I'm not using anything fancy. It's not dissimilar metals or anything. I'm just using some 16th or 062 ER70 S2 ER70 SD2 TIG rod. Nothing, like I said, nothing fancy, just regular mild steel. Knock each of these into the ends of the clamps down with some, wipe them down with some acetone. And then usually as the last measure, I'll just drag a little bit of the TIG rod through some acetone. Just, you never know if you got stuff on the bench that picks up or whatever, so, or whatever. I mean, I keep them in a sealed container, but still, when you're shipping and everything, so. Okay, lock that, set that up there. I'm gonna clamp the block right up against the edge there. We'll take a clamp. I got a piece of 1/4-inch plate. Then we'll use just a simple can't twist clamp here. Line it up the best I can there on a snug that can't twist clamp down. Make sure it's sitting flat down, perpendicular to the on the pin, and snug it down. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tack this corner, then I'll go around the other corner, and then I'll weld it in. Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and run it all the way across, then I'll flip it and clamp it, so it shouldn't move anywhere. Alright, got good gas coverage on it. So now I think what I'll do is I'll just keep progressing through these, and then I'll come back and weld the end pieces, and I'll just do an autogenous weld on those. I won't use any filler because I put a little bit of a bevel, and I'll just walk right around those. So there's the clamps all modified. So I've got 5 of the 6-inch ones and 2 of the 4-inch ones. So now that they're all done, I'll let them cool, and I'll go over and start making the point, and then the sleeve, or not the sleeve, but the adapter here for the the post.
All right, so I already got to use my clamp setup. Put some V-blocks with my clamps down to hold it in place while I welded this spigot in. This will go into the 4.5 foot long piece, and then I'm going to engine turn this, but this will have a couple of looks like these are probably 1032s, button head stainless steel, and I'll drill and tap the upper piece of tubing in, and then I machine a cap for the top of the other tube, the top tube, so that will basically go down into the top tube like so, and I'll weld around it and make it look nice, and then this will sit probably something just south of it like that, somewhere around there. So let's, oh, and here's the point I made for the other end of this. So this is step down. I put a pretty good chamfer on here, so that's what I'm going to do now is go over to the bench and weld this, and then this will be the piece that drives down into the ground, and then the other tube will go on top of it with a bolt holding it in place, and then again this will be where the no soliciting stencils are, and then this will probably just maybe barely stick up above it. I want it to look nice, maybe something like that. So anyway, that's what I'm going to go over and do now. Let's go over and weld this point on, and for the point I just chucked this up in the collet, and I think I set my compound at like 12 or 13 degrees and just made some repetitive cuts on it. So nothing, 1 1/4 inch dowel. I ended up facing it off on the lathe just to make sure it got a good flat surface on it, and then I'm just using a little bit of valve grinding compound and keep refreshing it and moving it on 3/4 inch centers. That's about 1 1/4 inches, so I'll move it on 3/4 inch centers. So I'm going to undo this piece from the mill. I'm going to go clean it, and all right, it looks like that is going to be the ticket. So I still got a little bit of cleaning up to do. I just hit it with some brake wash, but you don't want to rub on it because it'll mar the surface that you just end up putting the design into. But I think that's going to work. So looks like I'll probably end up going probably on, that's 3/4 inch, and I'm kind of a little space far, so maybe 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch by yeah, I'm thinking probably about 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch. I'll play with that a little bit, and then we'll get the other piece on here. All right, well, it didn't turn out bad, but it's not as good as I was hoping to. Key was, in these first few, definitely was keeping the dowel cleaned. As I progressed along, you can see a couple areas where I stopped and chucked it up in the lathe and knocked a fresh surface on the face of it. It started out really good for the first pass or two, and then progressively got a little worse. Then it got a little better there when I cleaned it up. Worse, and I got a little bit better there. So I think that's key, is maybe every half a distance I probably should have cleaned it up. But it doesn't look terrible. It's going to have the lettering going across there, so I'm going to clear coat this now and then put the lettering on it when the clear coat dries. The paint's just dried on the piece that goes in the ground. I've got some etching primer on it, as well as some dark bronze, I think it's called. So I went ahead and painted the pole as well. The sign itself, the metal, the engine turning turned out quite well, I think. My daughter-in-law made cut the letters out on her Cricut, I think it's called, and then I applied a few coats of clear over the top. So I'm going to go ahead, put a little bit of anti-seize on the button head stainless screws and install them. And then we're going to go install this out in the front yard and be done with it. And not a moment too soon, as we had a couple of solicitors come past last night right about dinner time, and so this is going to be a welcomed addition to the front of the
front of the house. All right, and like I said, that'll be, as you're walking up the front porch, it should be right about eye level by the time you get to a few steps away from the front porch. So let's go install it. All right, there's the sign installed. Well, looks pretty good. Like I say, the color matches our downspouts and our trim, and by the time you get about right in this area right here, so a few steps down from the front porch, it's right at eye level. So that should deter them if they're conscientious enough to abide by it. All right, well, that pretty much concludes another Saturday shop project. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to follow along. And if you like the content, give me a thumbs up, and I appreciate the comments. Again, if there's anything you want to see around the shop that I have touched on but haven't spent enough time on, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments one way or another what you think, and I'll see if I can do a video on whatever you'd like to see. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.